Hey, good evening, everybody who's joining us. Welcome to Environmental Coffeehouse with Jennifer Hynes and Sandy Schoelles. Tonight we have an action-packed show full of information. And as always, Jennifer, she will go over the order and what we're going to talk about, and I'm still going to fool around and do a little sharing. And it's great to see you guys. Who's we got? Oh, hi, Kim Centeno, our mod. Yay! So how are you, Jen? How's your weekend been?
I'm doing good,
Good.
despite it all. I'm pretty darn scared about the elections, I must say. That thing is definitely ruffling my mental feathers. Um, just because thinking about living with Trump as our president for the next 4 years drives me crazy. And watching all the climate stuff always is kind of activating as well. But on a
Yeah.
personal level, I'm doing well, despite it all.
I hear you. I know.
Yeah.
I feel similar. Anxiety. Every day there's something else. I mean, like today it was the grifter in chief paid $750 a year in taxes. I mean, what a slap in the face that is to everybody that pays taxes, in the United States. And this grifter doesn't. And that's not what we're going to talk about tonight. But I guess we're getting our Trump derangement syndrome out early.
Yeah. Yeah, Trump derangement syndrome is right. You're so
I'm
right
telling you.
about that.
Yeah. So I see
Yeah.
a lot of
But we've
great
got a great
peeps.
show
Yep.
lined up for tonight.
And you do that?
I can kind of give us the little roadmap
Yep.
of where we're going if you want.
Go for it. And I'm going to share.
Okay. So, guys, we got an interesting show tonight. We're going to talk about the fires in California. And this is an article from the BBC that just came out 2 days ago, September 25th, 2020. Global warming driving California wildfire trends. And it's a study. So that's very interesting. We are also going to be talking about wildfires, logging effects, fungi, pine forests depend on for survival study show, and that is from phys.org. We've got something from Inside Climate News, also hot off the press as of September 23rd. This is the warming climates of the Arctic and the tropics squeeze the mid-latitudes where most people live. Melting Arctic ice sends extreme winter storms from the north, while expanding tropics press the mid-latitudes from the south. So it's the squeeze in the mid-latitudes where most of us live. We also have something from phys.org, just came out September 25th. Tree rings show scale of Arctic pollution is worse than previously thought, in keeping with our theme of faster than previously thought, worse than previously thought, something more than previously expected. We've got another one, and we'll see if we get to these last two. These are both from The Guardian. This one came out on the 23rd of September, so pretty recent. Melting and Antarctic ice will raise sea level by 2.5 meters, even if Paris climate goals are met, study finds. Well, all of us on this show probably know that. And if we have time, we're going to get to our microplastic article, Microplastic Pollution Devastating Soil Species Study Finds. Researchers in China saw big reductions in organisms that play a crucial role in recycling carbon and nitrogen. So they're being stamped down by garbage, basically, microplastics and garbage. We got some good stuff.
And
good
I
stuff
am done
today.
sharing because I am have 4,000 groups and I can't do it. So, all right, let me get my volume back. And I think that we're on an equal playing field for volume. I hope we're hoping, guys, tonight. We're always testing something. It's just the way it is. Tonight was another one of those, oh my God, am I going to have enough? And it already slowed us down. It already slowed
Yeah.
us down. It's like, it seems to be, I have the Murphy's Law of internet. If it's going to be shitty, it's going to be shitty. It's going
Oh,
to
yeah.
happen.
It's
So,
gonna happen. It's gonna happen. But we're gonna have a
yeah.
good time
Yeah.
regardless.
Oh, yeah. We're going to because we need to comfort each other, and amongst this insane stuff, insane information that's out there, and so many people just it's like duh. It's like I'm gonna show that little picture I sent you to start, Jen.
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
yeah, let's start that picture. We'll start with this guy. If you guys could see it, and I'll make sure I go down on that. All right,
Oh yeah.
guys, see it?
Yeah. Absolutely. Oh, that thing, that cartoon.
Yes.
Can
The
you read it to us?
97% of scientists agree that climate change is real and humans are making it worse. And this guy, Jeff, whose Facebook pic is a truck, thinks climate change is bullshit. It's really hard to pick a side here.
Oh
I
God.
think it's an older one, but I liked it. So I thought, yeah, let's start with a little silly something or other. That was the silly something or other I found while everybody's joining us, which is great. I see Osama and Kaiten and Gaza and Vanessa Kitty and oh man, Victoria. Hi,
Hey guys.
Victoria. Yeah, this is awesome. Mark Roche. Great, great. So Jen, is it
Mhm.
oh Andy the gardener from the UK. Hi, Doomer Chicks. Rich Diana. This is
Hey.
awesome.
Hey.
We got a
That's
great group
great.
tonight.
That's
Yay. All right.
fabulous.
So, Jen, would you like to do the maiden
Sure.
voyage?
Absolutely. So our first one, global warming driving California wildfire trends, study finds. So let's take it away. Climate change is driving the scale and impact of recent wildfires that have raged in California, say scientists. Their analysis finds an unequivocal and pervasive role for global heating in boosting the conditions for fire. California now has greater exposure to fire risks than before humans started altering the climate, authors say. Land management issues touted by President Donald Trump as a key cause can't by themselves explain the recent infernos. The worst wildfires in 18 years have raged across California since August. They have been responsible for more than 30 deaths and have driven thousands of people from their homes. The cause of fires have become a political football. How can you do that? With Governor Gavin Newsom blaming climate change for the conflagrations. President Trump, on the other hand, has dismissed this argument instead pointing to land management practices as the key driver. Raking the forests, is that what he says? Good grief.
Raking the
Raking
forest.
hundreds of miles of forest? I don't think so. Now, a review of scientific research into the reasons for these fires suggests rising temperatures are playing a major role.
You think?
Yeah, think.
You think?
Not huge news for anybody here.
No.
During this year, the same research team published a review of the origins of Australia's dramatic fires that raged in the 2019-2020 season. That study showed that climate change was behind an increase in the frequency and severity of fire weather, defined as periods of time with higher risk fires due to a combination of high temperature, low humidity, low rainfall, and high winds. The new review covers more than 100 studies published since 2013 and shows that extreme fires occur when natural variability in the climate is superimposed on increasingly warm and dry background conditions resulting from global warming. In terms of the trends we're seeing in terms of the extent of the wildfires, which have increased 8 to 10-fold. Get your head around that. We're not talking 50% here. We're talking 1,000%, right? In the past 4 decades, that trend is driven by climate change, said Dr. Matthew Jones at the University of East Anglia in Norwich, UK, who led the review.
And then there's
Climate
this
change.
turd.
Oh, this turd. He's a horrible turd. He's a horrendous turd. I'm not going to get into my cussing from last time.
No,
Boy,
I need a turd sound effect when his face
you
comes up.
do.
I'm
Oh,
going
you
to
should
find one.
find one. Find
Yes,
one.
I will. Trust me, I will. Oh, yeah.
Climate
So,
change.
yeah, there you
Yeah.
go.
Climate change ultimately means that those forests, whatever state they're in, are becoming warmer and drier more frequently, he told the BBC
Oh,
News.
yeah, yeah.
And that's what's really driving the kind of scale and impact of fires that we're seeing today. In the 40 years from 1979 to 2019, so that's what, a 40-year swath right there. The fire weather conditions have increased by a total of 8 days on average across the whole world. However, in California, the number of autumn days with extreme wildfire condition has doubled in that period. So California is really eating it. They're just having a rough time. The authors of the review conclude that climate change is bringing hotter, drier weather to the western US, and the region is fundamentally more exposed to fire risks than it was before humans began to alter the global climate. The researchers acknowledge that fire management practices in the US also have contributed to the buildup of fuel. Okay, so they're acknowledging that there's something about that, like, what, trimming your trees or something. But, it's very hard to trim like all those. Yeah.
He was probably thinking of those people that walk on the side of the road in the orange jumpsuits cleaning up the garbage. That's what he was thinking. That's what his
Yeah.
forest management is, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And sweeping, literally. The science does not come into it for him. And
Yeah.
again, I don't want this to be about that guy.
I
And
hate
yeah, exactly.
I hate
So,
him.
well, anyway, where are we?
Normally, fire authorities carry out controlled burnings in some areas to reduce the amount of fuel available when a wildfire strikes. But these also have suffered as a result of rising temperatures. When you do prescribed burns, you can only do it when the conditions aren't too hot and dry, because you need to be able to control the fire, said Professor Richard Betts from the UK Met Office in the University of Exeter, who was part of the review team. I tell you, keep your eye on the University of Exeter. They're always in the news.
Yep.
They've got a great climate department there.
Isn't that where Jem Bendell came from?
I don't know for sure.
Or was he? No, he was. Okay, he was an
I
Exeter.
thought he was more North England,
Yeah,
up in
yeah.
Derbyshire or something like
You're
that.
right.
Yeah. But
Cambria?
once you've passed the point, now I have no idea. But once you've passed the point where you've got hot, dry conditions for much of the year, you've lost your opportunity to do a lot of prescribed burnings. So that makes matters worse and makes the land management challenge even greater. Another factor in California has been the encroachment of human settlements into forested areas.
Exactly.
This has put more homes at risk in these blazes. Between 1940 and 2010, there were around 100-fold increase in the number of houses built in the danger zones in the western U.S.
It's insane. It's
Yeah.
insanity. Oh my God.
Yeah, it's like building on floodplains as well. People are putting themselves in harm's way based on past statistics, which are no longer true, said Professor Betts. The past is no longer a guide to the future. for flooding and for fire and lots of other ways in which climate change is played out. The researchers say that the conditions for wildfire are likely to continue to grow in the future. And according to Dr. Jones, the resulting fires will likely get worse. It's pointing toward increases in fire weather that become increasingly intense, widespread, and dramatic in the future, he said. And the more that we can do to limit the degree to which temperatures rise is fundamental to how frequently we will see dangerous fire weather in the future. So that's pretty much that. And I guess the most shocking thing on that is how many people are building in forested areas. It's
And still building.
A 100-fold increase in the number of houses built in the danger zones in the western U.S. So they are prettier areas, but once you put your house in the middle of the trees, and there's a forest fire, you're in harm's way.
And I know this because I watch home and garden television, and I watch the shows, the building log homes and the house hunters and all this urban sprawl, the sprawl out there into these fire zones. And last week I was watching it because to me it's research. And I was watching it, and there was a couple looking at houses in a California neighborhood. And Jennifer, I looked it up, and it friggin' burned. And it burned. So the episode that house was in burned. And it's just, it's dystopian. It is. And they're going to just keep
totally
pushing them out. People want to live in the fire zones and the coast and every place that's horrible. And what else can I say? Let them move there.
Yeah.
I mean, not like it's our choice, but
yeah. And so, keeping in our trend, Sandy, we've got our second article. Which, do you want to take this one away?
I absolutely do. I was really affected by this one, and also the one coming up, the tree rings. But okay, this one is also in PhysOrg. I said it right. I don't know why I always want to say Sci.org, but it's physics. All right. So wildfires, logging affect fungi pine forests that depend on for survival. So disturbances can hit Alberta's lodgepole pine forests hard, including life under the soil. The new University of Alberta research shows. The fungal communities that nourish pine tree roots are being altered by both human-made and natural disturbances, which can stress forests and make it tougher for the pine seedlings to regenerate, said Jean Rodriguez Ramos, a PhD candidate in the Faculty of Agricultural Life and Environmental Sciences, and co-author of a pair of studies showing the results. That's a concern for forest sustainability. So even up there in Alberta, we're losing forests all over. The forestry industry is important to Alberta. So we should work to ensure plants of interest are able to establish under the increased stress imposed by climate change. So this multi-year research showed that the disturbances affect the top layer of the soil. That's which causes various changes in the structure and the abundance of those fungal communities, which we all know are like phytoplankton. These fungal communities are the cornerstone of life in these ecosystems. And one type of study published in the New Phytologist showed that the ectomycorrhizal fungi, a type that lodgepole pine trees really rely on to survive, they decline after disturbances like wildfire, clear-cut logging, and salvage logging. So at the same time, other types of fungi can increase and potentially alter the forest's nutrient cycle. Wow. That's particularly troublesome as disturbances fueled more frequently by climate change can overlap in the same forest areas, Rodriguez Ramos noted. So, drought and wildfire and logging can overwhelm the environment with increased stress. That's it. It's stress. It's human stress, it's ecological stress, it's environmental stress, it's just stress. And what happens is it overwhelms with that stress. And if it passes a certain threshold, just like us, it's possible the forest ecosystem will never go back to how it was before. That resiliency is compromised. So those pine seedlings growing in soils affected by clear cut and salvage logging were weaker and smaller than those grown in soils affected by natural disturbances. And according to the second study, the seedlings don't adapt as well to man-made disturbances, possibly because of soil compaction due to harvesting. And the research findings can help guide best practices, which is really interesting. And if we had time, I would click on the best practices. We'd be on that all night for how to choose forest soils for use in tree nurseries to create more resilient seedling regeneration. So given the importance of salvage logging as a management strategy, we should consider the impacts these practices have on the soil fungal communities as they mediate seedling performance, and studying potential ways to restore these communities might be useful to ensure the seedlings benefit from the fungal communities in surrounding soil and those colonizing their roots. Now, on a larger scale, findings like these point to the importance of using new solutions to sustain natural resources as climate change continues to make itself felt. And this was kind of personal to me, as where I live, they are logging. And I do wonder about the ecosystems in our state park. And there happens to be the one up the road from me. And I do wonder what is being disturbed in there. And I know once my husband starts hiking, he's going to see it all, and he's going to come report back to me. And I've asked him if he would take pictures because I want to know what's happening. What are your thoughts? Is that that's Alberta, but it's happening here. Yeah. What happens in your state?
Well, I'm not sure, but I'm assuming that something quite similar to what's happening in Alberta. The fungi communities are critical for growth, and they're an entire communications network and nourishment network, and they do all sorts of things that probably I'm not cognizant of all of the things they do, but they are critical for healthy forests, healthy trees. And I know that the roots have lots of fungi clinging to them, and there's quite a communications network that goes on underground as well.
Yes. And if I ever bring Jackie Heinel on, we're going to learn about it. She's a soil scientist, but every time we get together, she has the Facebook group Send the Bill to the Fossil Fuel Industry, and she every time we figure out something, she goes off with the Red Cross, because she's a volunteer. And she goes and takes care of people in these extreme situations. She was in Louisiana. So there's so many interesting people, but she is our soil gal, and we have to have her on. It's been like 2 years we've been farting around with this. We've had lunch together. You'll love her, Jennifer. She's awesome. Oh, yeah. She's awesome, Jacqueline Heinel. And Send the Bill to the Fossil Fuel Industry. That's the Facebook page. So I gave her a little plug, but she's a wonderful person, and she's really bright, and I know nothing like she knows. I call her and say, what's going on? And start crying. What's going on? But anyway, look, we've got a pretty interesting chat going on. Good. I'm glad you're all here. Matt Angino's here. I haven't seen him in a long time. I haven't seen Matt. Welcome, Matt. It's good to see you. And guess who's with us? Hambone, Humpty Dumpty Tribe.
Is he really?
Yes, and
Hello.
yeah, hi him. They're talking about Disney World in Florida just opened up, and what did he say? That answers my question about the Magic Kingdom. You know the chats. You know where the chats go. I mean, I'm just as guilty. You know, when you're with your people in these
Mm,
in our chats, all of our chats are so comfortable. You know, when all of them. So, well, what do we segue on to the
yeah,
next one, Jen? Which would you like
sure.
to handle the? Now,
Yeah.
whenever I hear about mid latitudes and this kind of warming climate, I think of Nicholas all the time.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so we'll have to do a state of the planet soon too.
Absolutely.
All
Well,
right.
this next article is from InsideClimateNews.org, and it came out just a few days ago, September 23rd, 2020, entitled "The Warming Climates of the Arctic and the Tropics Squeeze the Mid-Latitudes Where Most People Live.
Yeah.
Melting Arctic ice sends extreme winter storms from the north, while expanding the tropics press the mid-latitudes from the south. For
Mm.
humans, the mid-latitudes are Earth's climate sweet spots, where much of civilization, including cities and key food production areas, have developed. But those zones are increasingly being pummeled by climate change from both the north and the south. The Arctic is lashing out with the icy whip of an increasingly twisted and unpredictable winter storm track that drives flooding in Great Britain and cold snaps in Canada, while
Mm.
areas like the southwest United States and around the Mediterranean Sea are drying out as the planet's hot tropical belts expand relentlessly poleward. Recent research explains how global warming is intensifying those extremes and shows how the planet's climate system is like an accordion. Now, this is a new analogy. I hadn't thought about how
Mm.
the planet's climate system is like an
Like,
accordion. We're about to find out.
yeah.
No matter which corner you tug or push, all the bellows in between are affected.
Mm.
One of the studies, published June 2020 in the journal Geophysical Research Letters, suggests that winter may not offer much relief from
Oh,
extremes brought by warming.
lovely.
It shows, yeah, isn't that great? It
Mm.
shows that the impacts of summer Arctic heat can ripple through time, triggering winter cold snaps in the northeastern North America and flooding rainstorms in northwestern Europe. Well, we've seen that. That's like when the polar vortex breaks in half
Yes.
and we have these really severe winters. We've had them here too.
In
As
Europe, where Keith Boyd is always asking, he's always sending videos and saying, why is it? I think it is. It's not Keith Boyd. Oh my gosh, I forgot his name. But he's in Ireland, and he's always freaking out about the weather change, how dramatic
yeah,
it is, and it's
yeah,
not nice. It's yuck. Oh,
it's not
it's oh
nice.
wait, Brian King. I messed up. Brian King is his
Okay.
name. Yeah. All
All right.
right.
Marilena Oltmans, a climate researcher with the National Oceanography Center in the United Kingdom, found that fresh water pouring off melting Arctic ice caps cools the surface of the North Atlantic rapidly during the onset of winter, which intensifies the whirling of fall and winter storms that pull icy air from the north and moist air from the south in a perfect recipe for extreme winter weather. The fresh water creates shallower surface layers on the ocean that react faster to the air temperature, she said. The more rapid warming and cooling of the ocean and atmosphere intensify each other, driving increasingly volatile weather patterns. The study links the influx of fresh water from the big Arctic melt years with
Oh,
the extreme events like the record December rains that flooded the United Kingdom in
oh my God.
2015 and caused 1.9 billion of damage, as well as severe cold snaps in eastern Canada and the US in November's 2014 and 2017. The fresh water doesn't just trickle in, it surges, especially during a big melt year. This summer's Arctic heat wave melted some ice caps in Russia and Canada altogether, while Greenland lost 152 billion tons of ice. In recent
That's
years, it's amazing, right? And
it's
that's going to cause
overwhelming.
that huge cool pool in the North Atlantic again, right?
Unbelievable.
In recent years, the annual freshwater flow from just Greenland and the Canadian Arctic has been about 219 cubic miles, about 1.5 times the annual flow of the Mississippi River, just to put it in context.
Wow.
Jennifer Francis, a senior scientist with the Woodwell Climate Research Center, I think they meant Woodhull, not Woodwell, but whatever. Maybe that there is a Woodwell Climate Research Center. Who
Yeah.
is not involved in the study, said the pool of cold water has become so persistent that it shows up on global temperature maps as a blue blob southeast of Greenland. And we've
Yeah.
seen that,
Been
right?
talking about that
Those
blob. Yeah.
those ocean temperature anomaly maps. She has been studying how melting Arctic sea ice affects jet stream winds that shunt weather systems west and east around the northern hemisphere. The
Mm.
cold blob of Greenland is a fascinating newish phenomenon, not that new. I mean, it's at least 6 or 7 years old, with
Yeah.
ties
Well,
to a
maybe in
rapidly.
their time frame, that's newish. Think about how old, how
Well,
long time
that's true.
stretches.
That's true. A rapidly
Hmm.
warming Arctic, she said. This astonishing warming and ice melt is accelerating the demise of Greenland ice sheet and is also boosting output from rivers flowing into the Arctic, as we've talked about in other shows. We talk about the hot
Mm-hmm.
rivers going into the Arctic.
Mm-hmm.
Both of these effects send additional fresh water into the North Atlantic, which starts the sequence of events described in this excellent new study.
Wow.
She said that the climate connections identified by Altman's study are consistent with some of her research findings. And of course, Jennifer Francis is the grande dame of jet stream science. She's the
Yeah,
one
she
that
is.
started, understanding how the jet streams being affected by the melting Arctic and other things, and how when it slows down and becomes more elongated, that weather patterns tend to go further southward and also to get stuck. Basically, anything that alters patterns of sea surface temperatures will affect the atmosphere, she said. In this case, the increased north-south temperatures contrast bolsters winds that bring stormier conditions into northwest Europe during winter. In recent years, the UK has seen major flooding events, which likely had a connection to the cold blob. So we have the hot blob over on the west coast. We've got the cold blob over in the North Atlantic. We got blobs all over the place.
We got blobs all over my house. Blobs of cat
Right,
hair. Blobs of
right,
cat hair and cat puke.
right,
Just thought I'd throw that in to throw a little reality in the mix for you guys out there.
right.
Oh, Lord. All
I
right,
think I
well,
could
where are
finish
we?
this up. It's just
Yeah,
a
why
few
not?
more
It's good.
couple more paragraphs.
This is a,
The new
it's good.
study she added, yeah, the new
Although I
study
lost
she
where we
added
are.
goes a long way toward showing that winter extremes aren't just the result of natural Atlantic climate oscillations. It provides convincing evidence that the additional fresh water arriving in the
Hmm.
North Atlantic during summertime is the main cause of the cold pool, not a huge surprise,
Right.
which contributes to observed storminess in Northwest Europe, she said. As the Arctic continues to warm and melt rapidly, which it is, which
Mm-hmm.
is one of the clearest fingerprints of human-caused climate change, it's likely that Western Europe will continue to experience stormier than normal winters. For now, the cold surface fresh water still mixes with the warmer and saltier water below each year at some point in the fall or winter, bringing the surface temperature back toward normal and ending the perturbation of the storm track.
You
But
did good.
thank you. I was struggling with that word. It's not a word you hear often. But Altman said her research also suggested that the cold blob could eventually persist year to year, bringing additional disruptions to weather if there are consecutive summers with big inflows of fresh water. The fresh water from several summers combines the cold layer would deepen and prevent water from mixing all year. She said the study shows that has already started to happen in the southeastern subpolar region, where the fresh influx is stronger than other effects like wind that mix the water layers. Last paragraph. There are other long-term concerns. Over decades, other research shows inflows of cold water could slow vital ocean currents. Oh God, we talked about this on Thursday, didn't we?
Yeah, we did.
Right?
We
talked
sure
about
did.
the slow vital ocean currents,
Currents.
aka the AMOC, for example, that distribute warm and cold water throughout the oceans from the Arctic to Antarctica. And a study published September 16th in the Journal of Science Advances suggests that large flows of ice and fresh water from the Arctic and the North Atlantic can also cause extreme regional climate shifts lasting for decades to centuries. Wow, that's the end of that.
Oops.
Now, that article was pretty nerdy and kind of, a little bit more cerebral than the ones that we usually but if you can kind of hash through all that, you start to understand the implications of this.
Absolutely.
And how all these cold pools and strange goings on are going to probably end up shutting down the AMOC, which is kind of in the process of doing because the AMOC's already slowing, and continue to change the climate in a abrupt and radical way.
Been talking about that for quite a while. I remember first learning about the AMOC, and Jen, they're all scary prospects. Everything that's happening,
really are.
But it's all happening. It's all happening now. And this next article, we're going to segue, guys. This next article also was one that bothered me a lot with the tree rings. The show scale of the Arctic pollution is worse than previously thought. And we'll see if I read the whole thing, but I'm going to give you the, let me see. Oh, we've been, okay.
It's not too bad. It's a pretty short article.
All right. And it talks about what? Our favorite place, Norilsk. Okay.
Yes.
The largest, and we were talking about that at dinner tonight, actually. My husband had a friend over, and we were talking about the spill in Norilsk. The largest ever study of tree rings from Norilsk in the Russian Arctic has shown that the direct and indirect effects of industrial pollution in the region and beyond are far worse than previously thought. Jennifer, was that a surprise for either you or I? I think they've quite destroyed.
I don't think so.
No, I don't think so.
Far worse than previously thought. We should make a song.
Yeah? Should we write a song? I don't know.
It would be a sad song.
Yeah. So this was an international team of researchers led by the University of Cambridge, has combined ring width and wood chemistry measurements from living and dead trees with soil characteristics and computer modeling to show that the damage done by decades of nickel and copper mining has not only devastated local environments but also affected the global carbon cycle. You know, what is it that we learned in school? We learned about, we could tell with the tree rings how old a tree is, when we were kids. But now it's, we can learn how messed up the planet is by the rings in these trees. The extent of damage done to the boreal forest, the the largest land biome on Earth, can be seen in the annual growth rings of trees near Norilsk, where die-off has spread up to 100 kilometers. And the spill couldn't have hurt, right? That probably helped a little bit more. The results are reported in the journal Ecology Letters. Norilsk, in northern Siberia, is the world's most northernmost city with more than 100,000 people and one of the most polluted places on Earth. Since the 1930s, intensive mining of the area's massive nickel, copper, and palladium deposits, combined with a few environmental regulations, has led to severe pollution levels. And that massive spill, which we were the first to report on citizens, scientists, journalists here, in May 2020, has added to the extreme level of environmental damage in the area. Jennifer, it is just a crime. I mean, they really destroyed. Not only are the high level of airborne emissions from Norilsk industrial complex responsible for the direct destruction of around 24,000 square kilometers of boreal forest since the 1960s, surviving trees across much of the high northern latitudes are suffering as well. The high pollution levels cause declining tree growth. And that in turn has an effect on the amount of carbon that can be sequestered in the boreal forest. So it's like, it's gone. It's basically gone. However, while the link between pollution and forest health is well known, it has not been able to explain the divergence problem in the dendrochronology, or the study of tree rings. A decoupling of tree ring width from rising air temperatures seen since the 1970s. So trees tell us so much, Jennifer. Using the largest ever data set of tree rings, both living and dead trees. Let's see. I lost myself. Oh, dead trees to reconstruct the history and intensity of Norilsk's forest dieback. The researchers have shown how the amount of pollution spewed into the atmosphere by mines and smelters is at least partially responsible for the phenomenon of Arctic dimming, providing new evidence to explain the divergence problem. I heard you breathe.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting.
So they
Arctic
said,
dimming.
Yeah, Arctic dimming. Arctic dimming from all the smelt, all the, the crap up there. And using the information stored in thousands of tree rings. Wow, that's, this is fascinating to me. We can see the effects of Norilsk's uncontrolled environmental disaster over the past 9 decades, Jennifer. 90 years of destruction with mining. It was the problem of sulfur emissions and forest dieback has been successfully addressed in much of Europe. But Siberia, nope, we haven't been able to see what the impact has been, largely due to a lack of long-term monitoring data. So the expansion of annually resolved and absolutely dated three-ring width measurements compiled by the paper's first author, Alexander Kurdyanov, along with new high-resolution measurements of wood and soil chemistry, allowed the researchers to quantify the extent of Norilsk's devastating ecosystem damage, which peaked in the 60s. So they started to die off in the 60s. Because of the pollution, that's what they saw. And atmospheric pollution in the Arctic accumulates due to large-scale circulation patterns. We expanded our study far beyond the direct effects of Norilsk's industrial sector, and they found that trees across the high northern latitudes are suffering as well. You want to pick up on this one, or do you?
Yeah.
Okay.
The researchers used process-based forward models of boreal tree growth, and without surface irradiance forcing as a proxy for pollutants, to show that Arctic dimming since the 1970s has substantially reduced tree growth. Arctic dimming is a phenomenon caused by increased particulates in the Earth's atmosphere, whether from pollution, dust, or volcanic eruptions. The phenomenon partially blocks out sunlight, slowing the process of evaporation and interfering with hydrological cycle. Global warming should be expected to increase the rate of boreal tree growth, but the researchers found that as pollution levels peaked, the rate of tree growth in northern Siberia slowed. They found that pollution levels in the atmosphere diminished the tree's ability to turn sunlight into energy through photosynthesis, and so they were not able to grow as quickly or as strong as they would in areas with lower pollution levels. What surprised us is just how widespread the effects of industrial pollution are. The scale of damage shows how vulnerable and sensitive the boreal forest is, said Bunkton. Given the ecological importance of this biome, the pollution levels across the high northern latitudes could have an enormous impact on the entire global carbon cycle. Yay, team!
Oh my God! Yay, team! Yay,
Well
team! Yay!
You screwed up the entire global carbon cycle. Well done. Well, that's just sad. And the Arctic area is so fragile, and putting all that mining pollution into the air, it's just a crime. It's just so sad.
And I think.
And now they.
Go ahead.
Oh, and now they had that big diesel tank break, as we reported back in May, I guess it was.
Yeah.
And that was due to the permafrost thaw, and it, just destabilized everything, and all that. Diesel fuel went into the rivers and into the Arctic Ocean, even though they said it didn't. I mean, it's really a crime what's happening up there in that area of Siberia.
It is. Jackie did join us tonight, Jennifer.
Oh, did she?
Yep.
Good.
Hi, Jackie. I saw her. Her comment is, I need chocolate. I need chocolate. So, when somebody needs chocolate, we're under stressors. Gosh. And what in Norilsk, they're producing all this stuff for what? Cell phones and electronics and lithium for batteries. There's some discussion in the chat, and I think that they were talking about this batteries and all, because it's got to be going somewhere. But this was interesting. Vanessa said, so are the living trees getting thicker rings in the time of rising greenhouse gases are thinner? That's an interesting question. I thought it was
I would
thicker.
say, really? I would say thinner, because they're not growing as much. And when a tree ring grows, when a tree grows,
Right.
if it grows a lot in a year, it's going to have a bigger
ring.
tree
I was
ring.
thinking of the ring being bigger, but of course I'm not a scientist.
Yeah.
That with what's absorbed from the atmosphere. But that's a good one, Vanessa. I like good questions. Wait, did she stump the panel? No. We got that. We got it. Oh my gosh. So we've got where are we here? We have the microplastics from last week. We didn't get to talk about it. That is the article where we had our background from. And I don't know if we're going to do the whole thing, but as you can guess, I mean, we're covering the gamut tonight, guys. We have just touched on a lot of different things. And here we go with the researchers in China saw big reductions in organisms that play a crucial role in recycling carbon and nitrogen. It's devastating soil. So, Jackie, this is really your area of expertise. I'm so glad you're here with us. We're going to have you on to talk about these things. I guess I could start this one out.
Yeah.
We don't know. Microplastic pollution causes significant damage to populations of soil-dwelling mites, larvae, and other tiny creatures that maintain the fertility of the land. The study notes that discarded bags, cups, threads, and other forms of plastic waste are concentrated more in the earth than the oceans, with similarly dire consequences for the abundance of species that live below the surface, like mites and roundworms, springtails, and other forms of microanthropod and nematode that are barely visible to the naked eye, but they play an essential role in recycling carbon and nitrogen and breaking down organic matter into a form that bacteria can consume. They are increasingly threatened by oil-based synthetic refuse. And this was in the Proceedings of Royal Society, and it notes that humanity has produced 6,300 million metric tons of plastic waste since 1950, which 79% has accumulated in landfills or leaked into the natural environment. Jennifer, I have the best little meme. I don't know where it is, but I'm going to look for it to put it up. It's perfect for this if I can while you're reading. If you want to take over. It boggles my mind. I can't stand it, and yet it's so hard to take yourself totally out of the plastic universe.
It certainly is.
And we try.
The authors conducted what they say was the first ever field study of how this is likely to affect the abundance of microanthropods, nematodes, and microorganisms such as fungi and bacteria. The scientists divided a plot of subtropical land in Jinfushan. Is this a test? Qing in China into 6 blocks, each containing 4 test areas. It was a test. Each area was deliberately contaminated with 4 different densities of low density polyethylene fragments, 0, 5, 10, and 15 grams per square meter. After leaving the plastic to seep into the soil for 287 days, the researcher collected 5 samples and counted the species found inside. At the highest level of plastic contamination, they found a significant decrease of the most common species, Orobated mites, down 15%, and even greater declines of the 3 other anthropods, Dibitera fly larvae, down 30%, Lepidoptera moth and butterfly larvae, down 41%, and Hymenoptera ants, down 62% in comparison. Yeah, in comparison to the control plots. Among nematodes, they found a reduction of 20%. Net, everything is not doing well. Although bacteria and fungi were relatively unaffected, the paper concludes the effects of microplastics strongly cascade through the soil food webs, leading the modification of microbial functioning with further potential consequences on soil carbon and nutrient cycling. The authors...
I put up the cartoon real quick. It just popped in.
Oh, good.
You can keep reading, but it's good.
We're almost done. This is the last paragraph. The authors call for further study at different depths and in other environments, but say the message for policymakers and consumers is clear. We call for a reduction in the use of plastics and to avoid burying plastic waste in soils, as this may bring adverse ecological consequences on soil communities and biogeochemical cycling in terrestrial ecosystems.
Wow.
I know.
Wow.
Sad. It's really sad.
As you can see, 1,000,000 years from now, look what came alive.
What came alive 1,000,000 years from now?
The plastic bottle. It's on there, the plastic bottle crawling out of the bubbling cauldron of whatever it is that's going to be on this planet, and the plastic bottles have their little feet.
I see it. I see it.
I had to get that one up. It was perfect for what we were
Oh,
reading.
that
Oh,
is a cute
yeah.
one.
It is. It is. So, how we doing on time? Okay, 56 minutes. Let us see. Are we done with this one? I didn't.
We're done.
Yeah, we're done with this one. Okay. We have done really well tonight. We've gone over a lot. We did have one more, which is the melting Antarctic, but I think maybe we will. Why don't we save
We
that
can
one
keep
over?
this for another day. Yeah,
Yeah,
let's not push it too far.
we won't
I
push it
think
too
we've
far.
definitely saturated people's brains with doom scrolling horror.
Doom scrolling horror. Yeah, there we go. And trying to avoid the best we can talking about the orange man. Oh,
Good.
gosh. So we'll take a few comments and say hi to Void. He says David Attenborough has a new movie out also about global warming. Oh, he does? Another one. All
Oh,
right.
I heard from Jan that it's really, really good. And it's
Oh,
probably, he says that it's one of the best ones that David Attenborough's
very
done.
good.
So, Void, if you could put in the comments exactly
The
where to
link.
find this, yeah, the link would be great. I'm sure a lot of us would like to see it.
Yeah, that would be great. Let's see. We had some comments on plastics. Let's see. They like the cartoon. Vanessa said, do we think it'll take 1,000,000 years for plastic to come alive?" Oh my gosh. Well, fossilized coming alive. Ah, we have lightning rod with us, and oh, Basil, he said nematodes. Nematodes,
Thank you.
nematodes. Yeah.
Oh,
Unapologetic vegan. Every listeria outbreak, animal waste from 70 billion land animals contaminates land and water. Use as fertilizer on vegetables. Every E. coli outbreak. Wow, that's pretty wild. So
mm.
that was pretty wild. It was probably part of the chat, but oh, he was on 60 Minutes tonight. Void said, Sir Attenborough was on 60 Minutes.
Oh, yeah.
So, oh, Gary, thank you. Everybody, give us a thumbs up. Don't forget, give us a thumbs up. Right, that's cool. Thank you. Okay, well, Jen, we're
Yeah.
going on 59 minutes and 32 seconds. So I
Whew.
want to thank you. This was good tonight. And as we were going through, I learned more. And the tree ring is a really interesting method of research that I would actually like to uh, delve into a little further among the 150,000 other topics that always catch my eye. Gosh, what does Jim say? Jim and Tanya are here from
Oh,
the
good. Hi,
Gettysburg.
guys.
Yeah, it's possible, possible that plastics come alive.
Doer
Possible.
whore.
Yeah, Vanessa says 7 billion people's waste is the worst culprit of all. Well,
Uh,
yeah. Ugh. Gosh, there's just
uh,
so much, so
there's
much.
so much.
Well,
So
we can
much.
end with Kim Centeno. Love and light to you all, and love our family. And we really, really do. We do.
Absolutely.
It's
We
been a
love all of
good.
you.
Yeah, Jennifer, is there anything about anything we went over tonight that is burning at you to end with?
Oh, not really. I mean, it's just shocking, really, how fast this is happening, and it's happening faster and faster. Like last year, even the year before, it didn't seem to be as fast. Now, could it be a perceptual fastness? Like, are we just seeing it's faster because we're
Yeah.
focusing on it more, or is it really faster? And I think it's really faster. I think there are more disasters. I think it's going to be harder for climate deniers to maintain their climate denying stance, but you never know. People are incredibly resilient in that regard. So I'm sure they'll hold fast to their viewpoints. But, we're living in a profound time. This is a sad time to be alive. It's kind of an amazing time to be alive. So stick together and have community.
Yeah. Well, thank you, everyone. And I didn't put in an ending video, so I think we're just going to have a cold end and not put on the beginning video. So thank you guys so much, and we will see. And good night, Matt. It was really great. It was really great. Matt's out there making art. Wonderful person. Good night. Good night,
Good night,
everyone.
guys.
I do wish I had another file to say goodnight. Well, I actually probably do. All right. We're going to open this one. Nighty.